What's going on, guys, and welcome to the guide. My name is Valerio, and today's tutorial is a really helpful one to help you guys break down defenses in tight spaces around the box. But first, I'd recommend following us on Instagram. All the links to that will be in the description below. We review every single team of the week. We review some meta cards, we do team reviews, and of course mini tutorials there as well. So of course, if you're interested in that, drop us a follow on there as well. Now today the topic is a skill move that is quite frankly really underutilized. That is the simple dummy move. And it's a move that might require you to learn the specific situations in which it becomes useful, but when you do figure it out, you'll be able to catch opponents off guard. That is its core strength. Now, it's not the move that can be done whenever and wherever, so perhaps that's why it's so underused. But after today, hopefully you'll be able to recognize the moments in game where you can implement it yourself. Now, without further ado, let's get into how to do it. Despite how useful it can be in game, the dummy is actually really easy to perform in terms of the input. The only challenge, so to speak, arises in game, looking for the right things to be happening around you so that you can perform it. But we'll get more into that soon enough. Before, let's talk about how to perform it. While the ball approaches the player you want to dummy with, simply hold R1 on PlayStation or RB on Xbox, while at the same time holding the left stick in the direction of where you intend to turn. Another thing to note is that while the dummy is known to often trigger an animation through the player's legs, that won't always be the case. Sometimes the player will just let the ball slide along without it going through his legs. The end result will be the same, but it's worth noting because sometimes it's easy to think that the dummy never happened, when in reality, it was just a matter of the animation being slightly different this time around. Now that you know how to perform the dummy, the most important part is figuring out how and when to use it, because there are pretty specific guidelines and requirements for the right situation for it to be used to arise. I would argue that there are two main umbrellas, two main factors to consider when trying to perform a dummy. And the first umbrella or concept is related to the pass you make prior to the dummy. You have to pay, first of all, close attention to the pace of the pass. Failing to do so will result in performing a dummy and losing control of the ball because the pass was never slow enough for the move to be performed correctly. If you try and do a dummy on a pass that's too fast, you just set yourself up for failure regardless of the amount of space you can generate off of it. In this example here, we'll be able to see exactly what it looks like when the pace of the pass is correct or almost perfect. And it'll be slow enough to the point that when you perform the dummy, you know the ball will only go further on to the point where the player will have instant or close to instant control of the ball immediately after performing the move. As you can see, like I said, this allows us to regain control of the ball almost straight after the dummy, and we're actually able to use and make use of the extra generated space from the move. When looking at the pass, on top of keeping the pace of the ball in mind, you also have to consider the angle and the direction of the pass. And in this example here, the angle and direction of the pass tells us that the ball will end up straight behind us after performing the move, like in every dummy. The problem, of course, is that this is also the same direction that our opponent is running towards, and of course, as a result, by performing the dummy in this specific situation, even if the pace is correct, the direction and the angle tells us it was a red flag and we lose the ball. Here, however, you'll be able to see what it looks like when the angle and the direction of the pass are all clear. Now, we know the direction of the pass and thus where it'll end up after the dummy, and we can see that it is all clear in that direction, making this skill move a viable option this time around. So when we look at the pass, it's important that on top of the pace of the ball, you also account for the direction, the angle of the pass, and if the space is free for the taking. The second main thing to consider after you've thought about the actual pass and the pace and obviously the angle related to it is to think about the opposing defender that you want to overtake with the dummy. More specifically, is he being controlled by your opponent, or is he controlled by the AI? So obviously you'll have to take a look at where the indicator on your opponent is. Now, ideally, the defender you want to overtake is controlled by your opponent. Otherwise, it can get tricky to bait correctly, as oftentimes the AI will just hold their ground and not move at all, making it kind of a big possibility that you just run into a wall. However, when you do notice the pace of the pass is optimal and the space behind is free, and finally, when the opponent selects the center back himself, it opens up a huge opportunity, especially in and around the box, to use the dummy and break into space. However, before we play out this specific clip to the end, a secret little nugget, a secret little way the dummy is really useful is also in these situations where you can use the weak foot of your player as an advantage. Obviously, turning inside is what the opponent is most concerned about, especially here with Ronaldo, who has a 4-star weak foot, which is good, but not perfect, because being right-footed, people mark that foot more, and so he will be more concerned with the inside more. But using the dummy on the left foot increases the odds of the success rate, and you can generate so much space with the move that in the end, you actually end up shooting with his right foot regardless. With all these concepts that we have covered, it's then important to know the basics in terms of the most effective areas to use this skill, at least at first while you're learning it. And at the most basic level, my favorites have to be in and around the box, as shown by many examples in this video, to get a shot off on goal. A close second would also be on the wing, a very low risk area, and good to use when you notice the opposing fullback being overly aggressive or simply out of position in a way that allows you to take them by surprise. Once you've learned to avoid situations where the pass is too fast, the angle and direction of the pass aren't great, and you've learned to differentiate between when your opponent is selecting the right defender, not only will you be able to use the dummy in the situations outlined, but you can also start getting creative. You can start using it in more areas of the pitch, like maybe in your build-up, as a means of turning away from your opponent and avoid awkward situations where you take a touch and are stuck altogether. Nonetheless, I hope this was useful, and if it was, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know what else you'd like to see, and until next time, peace out.